was in the lab with
Yes.
Dino. Yes. Gunilla, are you
Yeah.
there? Great.
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. Hello, Gunilla.
Hi. I'm sorry that I couldn't show up in person, but I'm happy to join via Zoom. So I came to your lab as a junior specialist. And first of all, thank you for accepting me to come to your lab. And you really gave me the great opportunity to work with Martha and Dino. And everyone would like to be at the right place at the right time, but not all will have that luck. But however, that actually happened to me in '86 in your lab, Martin, because almost everything we did in the lab with MPGP could be published. So, and we worked hard, but we also had a lot of fun together. And when I traveled home to Sweden only 10 months later, it was with 5 publications. But I had so much more than publications with me, and it, I think Dino already touched upon it. It was the atmosphere and the collaboration that prevailed in the lab. It really strengthened me in my doctoral education and also me as a person. And it was really your atmosphere that you created in the lab. It was supportive and fun and creative. And I really appreciated the time spent there. And so I'm very happy to still have contact and really looking forward to meet you in person in Sweden in the fall. So thank you again, Martin, and congratulations to this celebration.
Well, thank you, Gunilla, for those kind words. We look forward to seeing you in Uppsala or Stockholm in December when we come to talk over there. And thanks for joining today.
Yeah.
We've got Martha is now going to come.
Thank you. And yeah, it's great to see so many friendly faces here and on Zoom. So I wanted to say a few things. I first met Martin in the fall of 1982. Martin was a new assistant professor in the School of Public Health, and I was a new MPH student. He was just setting up his laboratory, and he was looking to hire 2 MPH students. I was fortunate enough to be one of those students, and fortunate enough not to get fired like the other one. Working at one bench in Janice Yeager's lab, Martin showed me how to set up an isolated perfused rat liver experimental model, which we used to investigate the role of extracellular calcium in toxic liver injury. In time, we moved into Martin's new lab, which was just across the hall. And soon Martin filled it with 3 PhD students. The first was David Eastman, and then Celia Evans and myself became PhD students. In those early years, Martin brought in multiple visiting scientists. They gave seminars, engaged us in discussions of the research, and sometimes even worked alongside us in the lab. He also brought in several visiting students for short stints in the lab, including Gunilla, and a series of postdocs. These folks often came from other countries, Sweden, England, Germany, and Italy. And we learned a lot from each other. This is before the internet. We learned about science, of course, but also other things, including about different educational systems, political systems, cultures, music, cuisine, etc. Soccer. And at one point, those from the UK taught the rest of us how to play squash. And we even held a rather competitive lab squash competition. It was lots of fun. In those early years, Martin created this laboratory culture where the science was serious, but also fun. I remember many stimulating discussions with Martin, visiting Professor Peter Moldeus, and postdoc David Ross about my project investigating the roles that specific reactive oxygen species played in cytotoxicity induced by diquat and paraquat. And as you've already heard from Dino and Gunilla, we started to compare cytotoxic mechanisms of paraquat with MPTP and MPP+. And it was a really special time. We had so many hypotheses we wanted to test and so many experiments we wanted to do, but we were limited by the number of experimental treatments we could test in a single day. And there were only so many days in a week So it wasn't uncommon for the three of us to have heated discussions after reviewing the results of that day's experiments, as we each advocated for what our next day's experiments would be. Martin's research group also had a lot of fun outside of the lab, whether it was at lab meetings held at Triple Rock, or while discussing the latest science over a meal or a happy hour at out-of-town scientific conferences, or while on a lab ski trip or some other gathering. Martin set a tone of inclusion, trust, cooperation, and collaboration within the laboratory, a really wonderful, respectful environment, which I didn't truly appreciate until I had moved on to other research institutions. For example, within my cohort of 3 PhD students, we all got along well and were always willing to help each other out with experiments and other lab-related tasks. And here's a shout out to Peter Moldeas, David Ross, and Dino DeMonte, who were also great mentors. I can remember a lab that was routinely bustling with activity, with 5 or more people all working in the room at the same time on 3 or more separate projects. We shared the space, the hood, the balance, and everything else without any drama. And get this, back then we had just one set of Eppendorf micropipettes for the entire lab. So we were often, as we were working, we were often handing those pipettes back and forth across the bench. In closing, I want to thank Martin for 3 key things that he taught us. 1, to be better critical thinkers. 2, to not be afraid to challenge scientific dogma. And 3, the importance of designing and conducting experiments that truly test mechanistic hypotheses. That latter point, testing a hypothesis and being open to modifying that hypothesis based on the experimental results, is at the core of the scientific method. And with that, I will say thank you, Martin.
Well, thank you, Dino, Dave Ross, Martha, and Gunilla. And that's all very touching, and thank you. And we're going to take a break now for some coffee and light refreshments, and we'll come back to David Eastman with, we'll talk about benzene, and we'll have some people joining us from Washington, D.C. area. Thank you.
Martin, I think there was one more set of comments, I think. Sarah Jewell.
Is Sarah there? Sarah, are you there?
Hello, I'm there. I have some very brief comments.
Oh, great. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah, let me see. It's just a slide and a half added on to Dino's. So let me see. Is it this one?
Right, you do that? Yes, great, Sarah.
Yeah.
So Sarah met Dino when Dino went to the Karolinska Institute, and Sarah worked with me on calcium back in 1981 or something like that.
Okay, I can do it. Yeah. So share, right? Yes, good. So hello, everybody. My name is Sarah Jewell. I just really have one slide to show you, which is before there was MPTP, certainly before there was Superfund. There's somebody here who worked with Martin in the very early 80s. That was me, as well as some other people. So Martin and Dave Ross, and later Dino DeMonte and a number of other people really had the honor of working in the laboratory of toxicology professor Stan Arrhenius at the Karolinska Institute. So Martin, I've just put a couple of clips from our science communication, which was some of your early work related to oxidative stress and cell toxicity that we did in hepatocytes. It looks like this was your 9th publication. It was my 4th publication, and our ways somewhat parted after that. You obviously have had your brilliant and very successful career at Berkeley. But at the time we were both in Stockholm, you were still transitioning between a postdoc and a lectureship in London. I moved on to UC San Francisco to study medicine, and then spent 20 years in the Division of Occupational and Environmental Toxicology. So we continue to have some intermittent contact through the COEH between Berkeley and San Francisco. So really, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to see and greet some of my old colleagues from COEH, and to thank you and congratulate you for these years of mentorship and friendship. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. That was very nice. And Stan fortunately left us very recently, or quite recently, and was a great mentor to us all. So thank you, Sarah, and thanks everybody. So let's take a break.
Martin, what time do you want to reconvene?
We're reconvening in about 10 minutes.
Okay.